Hey y'all, this is Steve, and today I want to talk about something that started with geese on an Arkansas interstate, but did not stay there. It started with two dead goslings. It became a fight over judgment, tone, transparency, policy, and public trust. And before I go one step further, I need to be clear about something important. I have not spoken with the Arkansas State Police about this matter. I have not interviewed the trooper. I have not interviewed Colonel Mike Hagar. I have not received any private information from ASP about this incident. This report is based on public reporting, released video, published news stories, public statements, court filings, and previously reported Arkansas State Police statements. That distinction matters because when we talk about law enforcement, we need to be fair. We need to be accurate. We need to say what we know, say what we do not know, and avoid turning public concern into a mob. But we also cannot ignore what is right in front of us. The incident happened on I-57 near Cabot, between Cabot and Jacksonville. A family of geese and goslings were on the highway. Traffic was reportedly slowing and stopping. That is dangerous. I've worked too many death scenes on highways to pretend otherwise. People swerve, people brake suddenly, people look down for 1 second, one vehicle stops, another vehicle does not, and what started as an animal in the road can quickly become a fatal crash, just like that. So let me say this plainly. This was a real public safety issue. That part should not be and cannot be dismissed. According to public reporting, Arkansas State Police said the trooper spent about 26 minutes trying to move the geese off the roadway. ASP also said the Arkansas Game and Fish was contacted. KATV Channel 7 reported that the Arkansas Game and Fish spokesman, Trey Reed, said the deaths appeared accidental and there was no malicious intent. Those facts do matter. They help explain why this was not simply a trooper driving down the road and randomly running over birds. But those facts are not the whole story. Because two goslings were struck and died, a civilian video showed part of what happened. Later, dashcam video obtained through a Freedom of Information Act reportedly showed more of the incident, including the longer response time and additional moments after the civilian video ended. And once video entered the public square, the story changed. That is the world we live in now. Video does not always show everything. It may not show what dispatch knew. It may not show what was said on the radio. It may not show what Game and Fish advised. It may not show how traffic looked before the cameras started. It may not show every option that was tried. But video does something else. It strips away vague explanation. People see something. Then they listen to how leadership explains it, and in this case, the explanation became the bigger story. Colonel Mike Hagar defended the trooper. His point, as I understand it, was that human life comes before waterfowl. I do not think most reasonable people disagree with that basic principle. Human life comes first. It should, always. But that was not the phrase that stuck. The phrase that stuck was, life isn't always fair. That line may have been intended as plain-spoken realism. It may have been intended as a defense of a trooper placed in a difficult and ugly situation. But to many people, it did not land that way. It landed as dismissive. It landed as irritated. It landed as if the public was being scolded for asking questions. And that is where leadership tone matters. The public can handle hard facts better than dismissive messaging. People can understand a difficult highway call. People can understand that a trooper may have been trying to prevent a wreck. People can understand that law enforcement sometimes faces choices where every option is bad. But the public also expects humility when something disturbing happens. And when two baby animals are dead and the public is upset, life isn't always fair, may be true, but that does not mean it was wise. And, as you might expect, social media lit up. Some people defended the trooper and said the public was ignoring the danger of stopped traffic on an interstate. One public reaction captured that side of it this way: traffic was stopping on an interstate, human life comes first. Others said they understood that safety issue, but could not get past the tone of the response. Another reaction put it this way: maybe it was a hard situation, but the public statement made it worse. And then there were people who said this was no longer just about geese at all. One public reaction summed it up like this: this is not really about geese anymore. It is about whether people trust the Arkansas State Police judgment. That's the one that caught my attention. People were not just arguing about birds, they were arguing about judgment. They were arguing about tone. They were arguing about accountability. They were arguing about whether the Arkansas State Police understands how fragile public trust can be. Then came the comparison. The Oklahoma City Police Department posted about a goose family on a busy interstate. In that case, Goslings were temporarily detained and safely reunited with their parents at a nearby pond. Now, are the Oklahoma City incident and the Arkansas incident exactly the same? Probably not. Different road, different barriers, different traffic, different available help, different circumstances. But public trust is not always moved on perfect comparisons. It moves on images. It moves on tone. It moves on what people feel leadership is saying to them. One police agency turned a goose problem into a feel-good rescue story. The Arkansas State Police ended up defending dead goslings and a public statement that made the story even hotter. Now, that does not prove cruelty. It does not prove criminal intent. It does not prove the trooper woke up that morning wanting to go kill some goslings. But it does raise a fair question. Can human safety and humane judgment exist at the same time? I think they can, and I believe most Arkansans think they can too. But this goose incident did not land in a vacuum. The Arkansas State Police were already under scrutiny over pit maneuvers and tactical vehicle interventions. The Dylan Hess case, involving a father rushing his child to the hospital during a medical emergency, brought national attention to questions about pursuit tactics, proportionality, and judgment. In that case, public reporting said the trooper did not know the child was having a medical emergency. That fact matters too. But the larger public concern remains. How quickly should force be used on Arkansas roads? How much discretion should troopers have? What is the policy? What is the training? What happens when the video looks bad? What happens when the public asks hard questions? Those questions existed before the Geese. The Geese simply landed on already troubled ground. And now, on top of the goose incident and the pit questions, there's another story involving an Arkansas state trooper named Christian Morphus and Amanda Prince. According to public reporting and federal court records, Amanda Prince has filed a lawsuit alleging that Morphus, who no longer works for the state police, planted cocaine during a traffic stop. A Drew County jury acquitted her of the drug charge. Public reporting says an internal state police investigation concluded that the cocaine had most likely been left in Morphus's patrol vehicle from a previous traffic stop. The lawsuit alleges deeper failures in the investigation and names Morphus, Marcus Daniels, and Colonel Mike Hagar among the defendants. Now let me slow down right here. A lawsuit is an allegation. It is not a final court finding. It is not a verdict. It is not proof by itself. But it is serious, very serious, because that story is not about geese. It is not about wildlife. It is not about an ugly decision on a dangerous highway. That story is about evidence. And in law enforcement, evidence is sacred. If the public cannot trust evidence, everything else starts to wobble. The arrest report, the testimony, the case file, the internal review, the official explanation, the public statement, all of it depends on trust. So when an agency is already asking the public to trust its judgment on pursuits, pit maneuvers, highway incidents, and use of force, a lawsuit involving evidence handling lands hard. It tarnishes. Now, I want to be very careful here. This is not about blaming every trooper. It is not about saying the Arkansas State Police is corrupt from top to bottom. I'm not saying that. I do not believe that. The Arkansas State Police is a large agency. Publicly available information describes the Arkansas State Police as having more than 900 employees with public profiles listing about 586 authorized sworn trooper positions. To put that in Arkansas terms, the Arkansas State Police leadership is not managing a handful of people. It is managing something closer to a small Arkansas town. Think about Apollo up in Conway County. A lot of Arkansans know Apollo as that little place you pass through on the way to Petit Jean. Apollo had 737 people in the 2020 census. Recent estimates still place it under 1,000 people. That's the kind of human scale we are talking about. Now imagine being responsible for a small town full of people who carry badges, guns, radios, authority, emergency lights, and the power to make split-second decisions on Arkansas roads. That's not easy. And in any group that large, even a carefully screened group, there will be human problems. The Arkansas State Police does extensive screening. Recruits go through testing, interviews, background work, and training. They receive some of the most serious law enforcement training in Arkansas. But no screening process is perfect. No academy is perfect. No agency is perfect. Large organizations are made up of human beings, and where there are human beings, there will be human problems. Every large agency will have good people, tired people, stressed people, angry people, arrogant people, and occasionally someone who should not be trusted with authority. That is not unique to the Arkansas State Police. That is human nature. And that is why leadership and policy matter so much. Most troopers do hard work under pressure that most people will never understand. Many of them are honorable, professional, and committed public servants. I've worked with good officers, good deputies, good troopers, and good investigators for much of my life. But the badge deserves trust, and trust has to be earned. Trust has to be protected. Trust has to be repaired when broken. That is where the policy question comes in. If troopers are acting within policy, but the public keeps losing confidence in the outcomes, then leadership has to ask whether the policy is strong enough, clear enough, and wise enough. If a pursuit tactic is permitted by policy, but the public sees repeated videos that raise reasonable questions, then the answer cannot simply be that was within policy. If a highway response is defended as a public safety decision, but the explanation deepens public distrust, then the answer cannot simply be the trooper followed procedure. Policy is not a shield from accountability. Policy is supposed to protect the public, protect the officer, and protect the trust that makes law enforcement possible. If policy is producing outcomes that the public no longer trusts, then policy deserves a hard review. That is the leadership moment here. Not rage, not excuses, not tribal yelling on social media. Leadership, transparency, humility, records, accountability. If the full dash cam helps explain what happened on I-57 near Cabot, release it. Release what can legally be released. If dispatch audio explains the danger, release what can be legally released. If the Arkansas Game and Fish communications show what advice was given, release what can legally be released. If there are ASP policies for wildlife on highways, show them. If there are no policies for that kind of situation, maybe this is the time to create them. And on the larger issue of pit maneuvers and pursuit tactics, the same standards should apply. The public does not need slogans. The public needs facts. The public needs policy. The public needs accountability. The public needs to know that leadership understands the difference between defending the agency and protecting public trust. Those are not always the same thing. Sometimes protecting the agency requires admitting the tone was wrong. Sometimes protecting the agency requires saying a policy needs work. Sometimes protecting the agency requires saying a trooper made a lawful decision, but the public explanation was poorly handled. And sometimes protecting the agency means understanding that the people asking questions are not all enemies in the bleachers. They are citizens, taxpayers, motorists, parents, people who drive Arkansas roads every day and want to know that the agency with the badge, the gun, the lights, the siren, and the authority to use force is also an agency with judgment, restraint, and humility. So yes, the Geese may have started the story, the response expanded it, but the central issue has always been trust. Public trust is not maintained through slogans or defensiveness. It is maintained through transparency, accountability, and a willingness to answer difficult questions with clear facts. Trust is the foundation of the success of a law enforcement agency. Once it is gone, it takes forever to get it back. Whether the issue is a highway incident, a pursuit, or a controversy that puts leadership under scrutiny, the standard should remain the same. The public deserves honest explanation. The public deserves accountability when mistakes are made, and the public deserves confidence that those entrusted with authority understand that trust is earned one decision at a time. That is not an anti-police position. It is a pro-accountability position, pure and simple. Because in the end, public trust is one of the most important tools any law enforcement agency has. Once it is weakened, every explanation becomes harder to believe, and every decision faces greater doubt. That is why accountability matters. That is why transparency matters. And that is why the questions being asked here matter. This has been the 501 Corner. This is my opinion and my opinion alone. Now, y'all be kind to each other, okay?